So I don't really like labels. I wouldn't be willing to classify myself as a Republican, a Democrat, a capitalist, not even really a burner. But I would be willing to take on one label that I think really encapsulates the ideals of all of those, paradoxically or not. And that is that of cooperativist. Conveniently, it's not even actually a real word. It's a spin on the Spanish word cooperativista, which means a supporter of or advocate for the cooperative. Now, cooperative means a few different things to different people. In fact, it's several different parts of speech. But for me, first and foremost, the cooperative is a noun. Now, the cooperative has not always been a noun for me. It was about 7 years ago when I considered myself to be an activist. I was very kind of rah, revolution, smash the state, very upset with how things were going, really sought to destroy things that I thought were harmful. Very Occupy-esque, if you will. And while I still see a great deal of value in those movements and those sentiments and those actions and ideas, I've definitely shifted my paradigm from less of a destructive angle to more of a creative. And so now as I'm looking as a creative angle, I want to create change in my community. I was able to make this shift because I was bored one day. I was a student in an economics class, and I was just bored stiff. So I went ahead and started reading the section of the chapter that wasn't assigned that day. It wasn't required reading. It wasn't going to be tested on. So you can be guaranteed that about 99.5% of the people in that room were never going to read that. As I was reading that section, I came across a single paragraph that talked about the cooperative model, a noun. And my lid was flipped, my life was changed, and that's what brought me to the stage here today. So I'm here today to explain to you about what the cooperative noun is, and invite you to be a cooperativist, and invite you to shift your paradigm to be more creative to create a better world. So a cooperative is most formally, as I understand it as a noun, is a formal means of economic and social organization. It's been documented globally for centuries. So this isn't a new idea I'm bringing to you. It's just one that is highly undershared. Today, over 1 billion people are members of cooperatives, so this isn't just a model with a lot of fans, it's a social movement. This social movement has changed lives, has changed countries, and changed economies. And so I'll talk a little bit about what exactly it is. So how is this so powerful? How does this model create a movement? Well, the International Cooperative Community has defined the cooperative model as an autonomous association of persons united voluntarily to meet their common economic, social, and cultural needs and aspirations through a jointly owned and democratically controlled enterprise. Now that sounds pretty great, you know? It's like, how do you manifest that with management and capital and all these other distractions and complications? So what does that look like on the day-to-day? So what is a cooperative? What makes it different from other ways to organize ourselves? So the easiest way to illustrate this is to compare it to a non-cooperative enterprise. Along 3 points, we're talking about ownership, control, and use of capital and equity. In a non-cooperative enterprise, you don't own it. You're a consumer, you're a worker, you provide input into this product. You don't own it and you have no control over it. Most times, it's owned and controlled by the same individual or collection of individuals that have no significant personal investment in the production or the consumption of this good or service. In a cooperative, you own it, you control it. One member, one vote. These are inherently democratic institutions. And as a result, since they're democratic, you decide what happens with the profit. As a result, cooperatives have come to democratically view profit not necessarily as profit, which lines the pockets of a lot of these individuals and non-cooperative enterprises, but as surplus that is meant to be dedicated to be reinvested in the enterprise, redistributed to those who generated that surplus, or put to some other positive and universal community good. So that's kind of how they work. But you know, you can structure something along these ways, along these 3 points on the left side, and still not be quite cooperative. And also the cooperative movement likes to let you be limber, likes to let you be creative. There are a lot of ways to provide a lot of things, and you can do them all well. So what makes the cooperative model specifically different, the litmus test for a cooperative enterprise, is that it is a principle and value-based model. Does that sound a little bit familiar to those of you here? Some really strong principles. And I mean, look at this, like self-help, equity and solidarity, honesty, autonomy and independence, education. I mean, if we structured our entire world full of enterprises, if we provided every good and service, everything that we needed, our housing, our water, our government, along these terms, wouldn't that be great? And so why aren't we doing that? And that's why I was flabbergasted when I found this paragraph in this textbook. I was like, holy hell, why aren't we doing this? Why isn't this everywhere all the time? This seems so common sense. This seems so kind of, well, duh, and seems so universally applicable. Indeed, it is universally applicable. It's scalable and in every sector, everywhere. Recently, when the international cooperative community was pressed to find a sector in which they couldn't find a cooperative, they found only one, and that was in military defense. But actually, what about the Zapatistas? So frankly, you can find cooperatives anywhere. Sex work, cooperativized. Deep sea fishing, cooperativized. Governments, cooperativized. It's possible and it's scalable. You can own your own water. A lot of people already do. But unfortunately, a lot of the people who already do don't live in the US. Because in the US, cooperatives are a huge secret. Like, yes, you may be a member of a cooperative. In fact, when I found this paragraph in this textbook, I was a member of a cooperative, but I had no idea of the weight and the profundity and the importance of this model in impacting other factors of my life and that of others. I had absolutely no idea, and most people don't too. I imagine there are a lot of people in this room that are members of cooperatives that have no idea of the power that that model contains. So it's a huge secret, but it is in a lot of places. I mean, REI, Ocean Spray, Best Western, these are all cooperatives, but they don't brand themselves that way. And a lot of that is because in the US, we have this paradigm and some limitations that really strongly limit cooperative development and the movement here. A lot of that is tied back to the Cold War and the 1950s wave of individualism. It's wedged just into this individualistic and profit-seeking paradigm that creates a legislative and lending climate that is totally harsh for any type of collective structure. So lending and legislation options for collective structures of ownership and benefits are either A, restrictive and unwarranted excess, or B, totally non-existent. So a lot of cooperatives here in the US will actually incorporate in a non-cooperative entity and just operate cooperatively. This limits cooperative development across the board and limits the movement and keeps people like me and people like you from learning about it and realizing its own power and realizing our own power in that collective. And to pause and be self-critical for a moment, the cooperative movement has also kind of kept this a little bit of a secret. They've faltered somewhat on their principle of education and training and information and haven't diverted a lot of resources to telling the world about, hey, guess what? This is fantastic. This is a building block towards moving beyond destructive forms of capitalism towards a more just and humane economy. We haven't done a lot of education and we haven't done a lot of outreach, but that is changing. And part of the reason why that is changing is because the United Nations has stood up and taken notice and addressed and acknowledged the importance and the value of our model and our movement, and has declared this year, 2012, the International Year of Cooperatives. Yeah. It's very exciting. I just got goosebumps, actually. The UN Secretary General actually came out and said cooperatives are proof that you can pursue both economic viability and social responsibility at the same time. I mean, that's fantastic. That's great, and it's totally true. I mean, to toot some horns and throw out some more statistics, 63% of people in Kenya earn their total livelihood from cooperatives. Living in a housing cooperative has been proven to improve your health. Cooperatives have also not been proven as a means to alleviate poverty. They've been proven as a means to eradicate poverty. Cooperatives are really the best kept secret. And so why I've come here today is because I want to tell the secret. I want to build the movement. I think this talk and the International Year of Cooperatives is our moment, is the cooperative moment for us to move this movement out of the shadows, out of the classification as an option or as an alternative, and put it into the mainstream, because this model really is for everyone. It's for me, it's for you. You can do it in every sector and every part of your life at any time. So what I'm asking you to do today is I'm hoping that you can take your understanding of the cooperative model and movement and its universal use and take it and become a cooperativist and really come to value the word cooperative first and foremost as a noun. And to take that, and if you're not already a member, go join a co-op. If you are a member, go join another co-op. If you aren't a member, start a co-op. Cooperativize things. And then the biggest step, the most important step, once you're in it, once you got your card, you're a card-carrying member, give what you have. That is the most important and the most rewarding piece of this. Give your insight, your experience, your knowledge, and your equity, and you will continually get things back. In some cases, you're going to get back dividends. You're going to get back financial dividends. But on the bigger picture, what you're going to get back when you give to the cooperative movement and when you incorporate cooperation into your life is you're going to get a more just economy, a more sustainable world, and stronger communities. Thank you.